Okay, well, Bill Gross, who runs the largest bond fund over at PIMCO, is doing an interview right now with Tom Keene and Ken Prewitt over at Bloomberg Radio Surveillance. Let's listen in right now.
It's constantly alerted to the fact that government's not necessarily working for them.
You know, Betty Lou, good morning, and everyone on Bloomberg Television Worldwide with us, William Gross of PIMCO. Bill, in your note, you do go to fiscal policy. What optimism can we have that politicians facing re-election could right the fiscal ship? Do we need a strict pay-as-you-go?
Well, I think we do. We tried that once. It seemed to work temporarily, but yeah, we need some type of enforcement because politicians want to spend money, and certainly during periods of recession and great recession that we've been through for the past 12 to 18 months, we've had a deficit of 10 to 11% of GDP, as have other countries, and those numbers basically and eventually lead to higher interest rates, I think, as numerous studies have pointed out.
Well, Bill, your colleague Paul McCulley wrote the other day that PIMCO is, of course, the world's biggest bond fund, is cutting back on U.S. government securities and British government securities, and the reason is the increased level of debt. What's it going to take for you to go back?
Well, we just started, so it'll probably take some type of evidence that the U.S. and the U.K. relative to Germany, which is our favorite, is beginning to display some type of fiscal conservatism. I mean, Germany has put through an amendment, a constitutional amendment that basically says by 2016 their budget will be balanced, and they start off with a much more conservative situation to begin with. The United States and the U.K., according to IMF studies and others, will probably be in the 6 to 7% of GDP deficit range 3 to 4 years down the road. So we've got one country that looks great and two others that don't.
Bill, let's talk, first of all, at the end of your note here, you talk about all U.S. and U.K. asset markets may suffer from the absence of nearly $2 trillion in government checks. Let's first frame the 10-year. Where is the 10-year yield going to be a year from now?
Well, it's now at 377 in the United States. We suspect, and this piece that I wrote has two different pieces. One, it speaks to Germany versus the U.S. It also speaks to the end of quantitative easing, which is your question, Tom.
Right.
We think that $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion total absence of check writing when these programs roll off, and that happens not just in the United States but in the U.K. over the next few months, that probably is worth 30 to 40 basis points. It's hard to know.
No, but that's a good approximation there, so that gets you over into a four handle. How do you respond when you see David Greenlaw at Morgan Stanley suggest a 5.5% 10-year yield? You don't think that will occur?
Well, no, I think that's far too extreme because, to be fair, on the other side, inflation probably will be moving in the other direction. I mean, our model suggests that the core, moves down as low as 0.5% over the next 12 months, and so you've got a positive there, but you certainly have a negative in terms of the supply and demand situation.
Well, if that's kind of extreme, Bill, then where does it go?
Where does the 10-year go?
Yeah.
Well, I think it goes gradually higher. As I suggested, what we're focusing on at the moment is the end of quantitative easing. That's one thing that we're relatively positive on and what the Fed has announced in their past meeting. And so by the end of March, we're going to see the absence of $1.5 trillion worth of check writing. What does that mean? To us, that means 30 basis points higher in terms of yields. We'll look for that, and then from that point forward in April and May, we'll see where inflation goes.
Just in 30 seconds, Bill, then what do you do with the total return fund? Do you bring in duration? Do you go full faith and credit? Do you find cover in agencies?
No, you go to Germany. German bonds are basically yielding the same as U.S. Treasuries, and their programs have not been quantitative easing oriented, and so you move to a country where fiscal conservatism and the lack of check writing has taken place.
Well, stay with us, Bill Gross. Betty Lou, thanks for stopping by, all of you from Bloomberg Television with Bill Gross of PIMCO.